Today is our first and last day of our venture in the Master Gardener's skills and to become one of the best in the agriculture field. We're going to have a beautiful work helping other people to care about Mother Earth.
Ahora en español.
Buenos días, es un gusto tenerlos a todos aquí. Hoy es el principio para muchos de nosotros en nuestros talentos como jardineros, cuidar de la tierra, crecer vegetales y comer de estos ricos productos que nos da la Madre Tierra. I want to introduce you today to the Master Gardener, John Shara. Thank you, John.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for hosting the tour, the program, and we're gonna learn. Hoy vamos a aprender sobre el mantenimiento de un jardín y cómo mantener nuestros utensilios de trabajo y cómo mantener que se estén siempre bien, que corten bien, y el maestro Shara nos va a enseñar hoy. So, thank you for being here.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. And thanks, everybody, for showing up, in spite of the showers and everything else. I want you to imagine something, okay? Pretend yesterday we went out, got a couple little pony packs, okay? We're going to our raised bed this morning. We're going to plant those bad boys. You've been thinking about that. Got out there with my coffee. I'm ready to go. I did find my plants. I walk out to the garden. Where's my trowel? Is it in the car? I go to the car. It's not in the car. Did I leave it in the planting mix? No, it's not there. I go out in the back. Is it out there? I can't find my trowel. Now I'm a half hour into this thing. Okay? All I wanted to do was get this can in the ground. So, we're going to talk about tools today, and we're going to talk about organizing our tools, so that sort of thing doesn't happen to you. And before I start with that, I want to talk about the tools that I think are the most important tools that I have. And I'm going to give you a tool to start out with that I think is probably one of the best tools that the Master Gardeners have. And that is our hotline card. Raise your hands if you don't have a hotline card. Okay, you're going to get one. And you're going to need that someday. And you're going to need that. Now, let me explain what this is. Master Gardeners of Orange County, we're volunteers. We're trained by the University of California Extension Service with Davis and Redlands and all those folks. And then we work with the Meisters like Isabel, who shows the big stuff. Okay? What we have here, our hotline, this site is manned 24/7 by Master Gardeners. You phone them, you leave phone messages, you can hit it with email, whatever you want. And you can ask even the most obscure questions that you ever could imagine. How do I get rid of rats? Where do I find the best persimmon? Where do I get mulch? Where's the cheapest mulch? All those kind of questions that you might come to your head, but you don't know where to go. Now, you could come to me out here while I was walking around being a Master Gardener volunteer, and you could say, John, where do I get this? And I might say, well, I'm not sure exactly, but I'll give you an answer, okay? And you're thinking, where did you get that? So it may not be, you're always kind of unsure. Or you go to, worse yet, you go to a store. And the store is always going to sell you something. Okay? And again, that may not be what you need. But with this little card, when you ask a question to the Master Gardeners at the hotline, what you're going to get is you're going to get an answer. Okay? The answer is going to be backed up by research done by the university. And generally what they're going to do is drill down through a university website and show you where you got that. So you can read it yourself and see where they got it. So that's why this becomes such a valuable tool. So hang on to that. I had stuff spread all over the place. And I could never seem to find that trowel or that loper or the thing that I needed. So what I'm going to give you today is a little quick overview. And I didn't invent this. These were people, master gardeners, who showed me this, and I liked it so much, I'd like to kind of spread it. Now what the master gardeners are talking about, it makes a lot of sense. I have mechanical tools at home. I have them in a toolbox. So I know where to go and get that tool. I don't know why I didn't think to put all my gardening tools in one spot so I could find them. This is typically what we use or something like it. I use this because it's very inexpensive, because I'm a very inexpensive kind of guy. I like to make things last. I spend a lot of money. This little cover for my $5 bucket from Costco, the cover I think costs less than $20. So we're talking about $25 to get a way to organize your tools. And what I have in here are the things that I need every day, basically, to handle stuff in my raised beds, or handle my fruit trees, or I throw this thing in the car when I come out here to work, or I bring it out when we're working out at Screc. All that stuff is available to me. That's why I like this. You could use anything, but I'd like to encourage everybody to try to gather their stuff up in one spot. A couple little additions I made to my bucket. I put some 3/4 inch plastic tubing on the top here, because this thing gets a little heavy when you drop wrenches and screwdrivers and saws and all kinds of other silly things in here. If you put a 3/4 inch cut a little piece of plastic pipe and just disconnect this thing, slip it on there, it's much easier to carry. It doesn't, it's not so uncomfortable carrying it on. Back to my toolkit. Next thing I need is a trowel. So I always keep my trowel. I do have some other stuff. Tape measure, good. Nice. The bigger, heavier trowel that people like to buy. This works nice when we're talking about amending beds. To get a bag of a manure, soil amendment, compost, or whatever. This is a nice way to move that material. So I like this. Nice and light, big and heavy. Another tool that I like to carry around in my bag, folding saw. These are real sweet. About 20 bucks, 25 bucks. Kronos, this is a little different. The new ones are really nice because the way they've got these blaze work now, they cut both ways. It used to be you only cut it on a pull or the push, I think it was a pull. Now they cut both ways. A nice piece of
And they have bigger ones than those too. They're bigger,
yeah, they've got bigger and bigger. But I said I like this. This because it's kind of handy. I keep it in here and easy to do. I do have a small set of loppers that fit in here. These are kind of nice. Nice for working small stuff. Loppers, you're really close, and you've got your big one. Works pretty nice. That I like on my tool. This is kind of handy, but it's kind of specifically out here. And maybe in the Santa Ana parks, you might find yourself needing this because sometimes they don't put handles on all the hose bibs. This is one of those multi devices you can get in any hose bib with this particular little thing. Not very expensive. Because I have vegetables and sometimes I'm working with seeds and bulbs and things like that, this dibbler is kind of cool. Okay? And it gives you, it's just nice to set things and look at, it's poking holes in dirt, basically. And for some reason I find it handy when I'm working with, just a dibbler. If I went over here and I kicked at it, can I tell anything? No, can't tell anything about it. And that's the way soil is. The only way I'd know whether there's whether these things have been irrigated properly is with this. This is because you just can't tell what's going on down there that deep in the soil. Now, let's look at this. I can look at it, maybe, but I don't know. If I take a soil sampler, and I'm looking for about like this, then I can tell what's going on down there.
What did you find out?
You can buy these, of course you can buy these things online. It's just a soil soil sample
Soil Pro. Soil Pro.
Soil Pro. I'm sorry, Soil Pro. But anyway, and this is especially nice with lawns. Okay, when somebody asks me about a lawn, there's something wrong with it, or the first thing I do is stick this thing in there, and you know for sure if you stick that thing down in there and you can't even get it in, you know there's something wrong. The difference between a standard hand sprayer and one of these things is, if I use this on my raised bed over there, all those young things I planted a couple days ago, I'll flatten them with this bad boy. I mean, I'll level. That thing there is just like this nice, smooth, silky load of water, and that's why I tried to transition all my. And you have to. I can never seem to get one just whole. I always have to go down and buy this head, which is twice as much as the whole thing together. But they last a long time. They're just really handy if you have some tender veggies in a garden. 1,000 whole. If you're going to work and do a lot of citrus trimming or picking, or if you're going to do a lot of rose work, a set of gauntlets. Canvas gauntlets. Isabel makes these things. You need some. But they're awfully handy sometimes when you know we got to get all poked up. A decent set of loppers. You always need that. And again, we'll be talking about sharpening these things in a minute. Another thing that I find sort of handy is this. This is just a. This is one that's sold by Home Depot. I just find these things. They save you from stepping up on a ladder most of the time, because you can get just about high enough on most of your fruit trees, because you certainly don't want to get any higher than this. And they're pretty sharp and they're pretty effective and they don't cost very much. I really do like this.
They have two sizes.
Yeah.
That's a small one and a big one.
Small
That's
and
my
big.
favorite one.
Isabel's got all of them, you know. I got this.
Every size I'll have it. I've been training these guys.
None of it took either.
You've been training everybody.
When we go to sharpen our tools today, I'm going to be talking about this file and this handle. This is the cheapest file you can buy at Home Depot. It's a 6-inch general purpose file, okay? And this costs $5, $4.97. This costs $2.97 with a handle to go on the end. We'll be talking about how to use it. Yeah, sure.
Your name's not on it.
I better get my name on it. Something else that I find valuable, we do a lot of espalier work out here. We're running trees all over the place, and there always seems, or you're trellising tomatoes, sweet peas, all kinds of stuff on things. I find this this natural jute fiber, a ball of this, kind of nice, and you can just drop it in the bottom of your toolbox. But for tying stuff, it really works, and it's biodegradable. I have used tape for that kind of thing, but every time I use this stuff, I feel like I get tape all over the place, and it's not biodegradable. It stays there forever. So I'm kind of leaning towards this jute. It's nice. It's easy stuff to work with. Now, let's talk about tools. There's nothing worse than a dull tool. In fact, a dull axe, if I remember my old Boy Scout training, is worse than a sharp axe. And the reason is, a dull axe doesn't cut, it tends to bounce and ricochet off things. And so you can hurt yourself with that. So keeping a tool sharp is really important. And I think people have made too big a deal out of sharpening tools. It's not that hard to do. And if you need $10 worth of sharpening material, and you can keep your loper dead sharp, you can keep your little hand loper dead sharp, even sharpen my little gizmo with it. So we're going to talk about that. This is where I keep all my grafting tools. This stuff here is real nice. Hand cleaner and tooth cleaner. And that stuff is really nice for cleaning tools. Again, I think that's available down. Those guys down in Orange County Farm Supply should give me something, because all the time I talk about all their stuff. But a nice
John, may I see that?
Now, let's do a quickie tool sharpening deal. And let's talk about theory of sharpening tools. The trick is to get the edge back on the tool without taking off a lot of material. Okay? Taking off a lot of material on steel is hard. And we're using a very light file. Which is really, what's really funny, okay, for the guys. The gals seem to be better at this than the guys. And I'll tell you why. Because the guys want to put a lot of pressure on this thing as they run this thing across the edge of the blade. The girls listen to me and say, just, you know, run it there. You can feel a cut, and that's all the pressure you need. You don't need to try to plunge this file into that edge of that steel, because first of all, these little teeth on here are tiny. They're tiny little things. They're probably not even, I don't know, 25 thousandths deep. Okay, so if you're really leaning on that thing, you can cram a lot of metal into the face of your file, and then you're not going to get anything to cut. You just want it to cut. You want the metal to spill off. It's called scarf, and you want a nice sharp edge. Now, what's really nice about sharpening most of these tools, we're only kind of looking at one edge. Okay. Now, the steel in most of these tools. The steel. I've still got
Persimmon.
persimmon.
Recognize that.
We're picking persimmons. I got persimmon all over everything. Where was it? Okay. We are the steel in this tool. It's not. It's tough and hard, but not real hard. This file is brutally hard. It's 60 Rockwell plus, okay? But it's brittle. If I hit it hard enough on the edge of something, it would break because it's brittle. The steel in this here is probably high 40s, maybe high 50s, which means it's probably half as hard, or maybe not even that, of this, because it's kind of a geometric curve here. Half as hard as this. So we can easily cut this metal with this little file. That's the first thing. And the reason we don't want this stuff terrifically hard is if it's real hard, then it's brittle. So if you're twisting, trying to cut something, you might snap this blade off. And we don't want that. So we'll put up with a little edge coming off this thing because we know we can sharpen it pretty quickly. And if we put a nick in, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take the nicks out of this thing. We're trying to get the edge back. And it's a simple thing to do. Now what I'm going to do, and what I'm going to show you, is I'm going to be, see, that's our cutting edge right there. And on most of these tools, you've got a flat side and you've got a beveled side. And we're going to be working on the beveled side. We're not going to be messing with the flat side, because the flat side works like this is almost like an anvil, as this thing shears across here. So we're not worried about this. I'm worried about bringing this back. If I get a big gouge here, where the thing is just, the edge has been pushed flat, then I'm trying to bring that edge back. And how I'm going to do that, this is the way I'm going to hold that tool. See that? Put my hand like that, and I'll put my finger down like that. It kind of supports it. And we're just going to, and what I'm going to be doing is just running that along the edge. And you can see the material kind of clean up. And that's what I'm looking for. I want it to clean up down in there. Because remember, what I don't want to do, I didn't want to take a lot of material off this thing. I want these babies to last me forever. Okay? So if I grind on them with a grinder, that's too aggressive. You'll never get a decent edge, and besides that, you won't have much of anything left when you get done. So this works perfectly. So we're just working. We're just trying to clean up that edge. We're just going to try to follow the edge with my file, holding it like that. Laura, hold it. Show me how to hold it. She's holding it perfectly. Okay. Let Maria see if she can hold it. Perfect. Good. See, I told you the girls are really good at this. Perfect, right?
They're used to doing their nails.
You know, probably it's true. They're gentle with that stuff. Yep, perfect, good.
Is that good for nails?
Sure. A little rough for nails. Good for this thing.
I know, that's why they're...
Joan, can you use a knife steel?
Okay,
You know a knife steel?
yes.
Can you use that as well?
Okay. This is not the only way to sharpen something. Okay? There's lots of different ways to sharpen stuff. The file, might as well talk about that. The file is one way of doing it. Like I said, I got $10 worth of file there, and it's going to sharpen this and this and a few other things. My little scissors and so forth. I could sharpen the edge of a shovel with that. I could sharpen a hoe with that. There's all kinds of things. Now, there are some steels that are very, very hard. This is the grafting knife. Okay, that baby is pretty close to the hardness of that file I talked about. It is really hard. Okay, it's really hard because you want a real sharp edge, and you can get that with really hard steel, and you want to keep it as long as you can. There's no way I can sharpen this thing with that file. It feels like it's bouncing off if it hit this kind of material. And I noticed there's the Germans make a little clipper like this. Okay? If it's from Germany, sometimes that material, they use a real hard steel in there for whatever reason. And you can't sharpen it with the file like the way I'm showing. You've got to use you're going to have to use probably a stone, like I said. And I don't think we're going to get that far, because we're going to talk about something you can sharpen about 80% or 90% of your things with. But there are other ways, like Albert was talking about, there are other things to sharpen. I have what they call a lap. Okay, this is has a little plastic handle on it, and if you feel this, it doesn't feel like anything, but it's actually impregnated with industrial diamonds, and they're tiny. Now that's a medium grit, meaning that if it was fine grit, it'd be a real small diamond. You can't see that. The medium is little, and then there's a coarse, and you can buy those things. They're handy. And what I use that for, I can tell you one thing: if you lean on that, you're going to ruin it, because you're just going to bury those diamonds on the surface of that metal in the kind of material it'll just be nothing. You can't get the material off the diamond. But you can use it if you use it very lightly on an edge that you've already brought up, say with a file or a stone. And that's where you'd use a lap. Okay. We're just going to talk about files, because that's, like I said, it's going to take care of most of the problem. What I'd like to do, I'm going to lay out a towel here, and I'm going to get on the other side of this thing, and I'm going to sharpen a little bit, and then I'll let Pilar try. And somebody brought some tools too, right?
Yeah, we have
Jose brought some tools.
Okay, cool. We got some sharp tools. And
pretty bad.
we'll just work with this file thing, and it's the kind of thing. Trust me, this isn't rocket science. Okay, this is easy to do. It doesn't take much. It's just kind of a nice thing to have, and sooner or later you're going to pull out that loper, and it doesn't look like it's cutting a nice, clean cut on your roses. It's kind of tearing things, and you're going to look at the thing and say, "Man, this thing needs to be sharpened." You don't panic. Pull out your file, lay it down. I'm going to show you how to do it. It involves holding the tool nice and still, and then running that file over the edge of that thing until we can see that we're cleaning up the edge of that. And then you can take the edge of your finger, and your thumb. Well, not that way. You can feel when things. I mean, we've all had kitchen knives. We know when kitchen knives are sharp. You can tell. But I think it's people make a big deal out of it, and it's not. It's not a big deal. A sharp tool is so much easier to work with. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spread out this towel, and we're going to lay my loapers up there. We're going to run that. We're going to practice playing with this thing a little bit. Okay. feel it kind of cutting under, you're going to this. And again, I can see the edge is coming up here. You want it back to maybe change the angle a little bit so we can come down here on that edge. There we go. And you can take your finger, you can feel that's getting short.
Yeah, definitely.
You did it right, right? Okay, now here's an interesting thing. We've got these are different types, rather than an anvil and a shear. This is like an anvil with a cutting edge on both sides. Okay? And the first thing I'd want to do is figure out, and now I suspect they're not real hard because they're, but if they were German or Japanese or something like that, I might suspect the steel might be a little harder, but you'll find out as soon as this thing touches it. Okay, it's cutting, so the steel is cuttable with a file. If it was just bouncing off this edge, it wouldn't be worth it. Now in this case, this bad boy is it's got an edge on both sides. So we're going to work on both sides of it. Yeah, it is cleaning up. That's another thing too. You can tell sometimes this oxidized material, meaning kind of a rusted blade, before you cut through that oxidation, that oxidized material tends to be just a little bit harder than the steel. So it might kind of run over the top before, but boy, when it starts to bite into the steel, you can tell this thing is really cutting in. Of course, it cleans up right now. Now this one doesn't open up as wide, so it's a little harder to get. But remember, I'm always looking from, I'm not coming down this way, I'm always going from the edge up. Again, I don't want to take a lot of material off this thing. I'm going to try to get it sharp without ruining the blade.
See that blade brightening up too.
Yeah, you can tell, you know, with an old dull blade like this, it's kind of easy to find the edge. This one kind of has a big...
You want to file at the same angle that the blade is cut at.
What I'm trying to search for is that edge that it was ground out. Okay, and that'll give me the sharp edge fast. The problem that you find is that a lot of these blades they're thick like this and they're ground like that. And the edge is down here. Okay, so if you keep moving this thing back and back, the edge gets shorter and shorter like that. And what you end up with is a real sharp edge stack there, but you kind of got a hump like that. And I find that doesn't cut as nice. And like in this one here, it was starting to get like that. And then I had to go up on rise up on a little bit and kind of round out that hump and try to bring the angle across rather than downward like this. Does that make sense?
Straight angle?
Yeah, it's kind of, because they forge it, they rough grind it, and then they fine grind that last edge. And typically they forge it like this, and then they grind it like that, and then the edge comes down like that. So you've got this hump in there between the edge and the forge. And if you back that edge up, pretty soon you got an edge like this and a kind of a hump, and it doesn't cut very well. So you got to kind of climb back on that hump and kind of smooth it out, so you get a nice smooth kind of like that. But you really have to take off some material to get it up there, but it happens.